Hey guys, welcome back. It is finally that time where I get to shamelessly self-promote my upcoming novel, Tower of Dogs, and it's debuting on January 11th, 2022, 01112022, just because that's a great number, I guess. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the things that I've learned this past year, especially when it comes to self-publishing, as well as kind of the writing process that I went to, the editing, and kind of promotional things and coming up. So we're gonna just go over what I've learned so far, and I apologize for all the background noise because the puppies have to play under my chair. And I've started filming this 6 different times. They won't stop. So they're just gonna be there, pretend they're jingle bells and it's in the season. Just heavily breathing jingle bells. The first big thing, I think I should start more or less chronologically with the process in order to convey things the best that I can. The initial draft of this book, or at least of this story, was done in 2017, but I didn't touch it for a while. I didn't really even get back into writing until early 2020, and I was fortunate enough that there was a workshop locally for local writers, and we sort of did like peer reviews and stuff, and I learned a lot about my grammar, as well as kind of better ways and more coherent ways to write what I was trying to convey. That helped me a lot. That was the beginning of 2020, and then over the course of that year, I slowly kind of polished my writing style, but also like I was able to look more critically at my characters and my choices for my plot. So that was kind of a learning year for me. And then at the beginning of this year, 2021, I set a very soft goal of just finishing the manuscript for this first book. I wasn't sure when or if I'd be able to publish it in this year. And one other reason for that was I was still on the fence if I wanted to submit it for like a traditional publisher. I was kind of on the fence for like 5 months because I don't think I officially decided to pursue self-publishing until May, maybe April. And at that point I had what I felt really confident as still a rough draft, but the story was set, all the developmental edits were taken care of. I started my first round of beta readers. So this is gonna kind of loop in together with the next topic. So as far as the writing process itself, mine has severely fluctuated because I didn't have as much experience, obviously, at the beginning, and I did take the time, more or less unintentionally, to improve that craft before going into the more solid writing, and that's where things got a lot easier. I was able to write more clearly, a bit more quicker than I expected. So while my goal was to finish just the manuscript, which at that point, I want to say I had like half pretty solid. So I expected to write that second half this year. I finished the whole kit and caboodle, I want to say it was March. Like I had actually written through the end. But then I did some more developmental edits, and that took a couple months on and off working. So by all means, my book was done, or the story for this first book was done in June. And it was at that point that I kind of was like, okay, I have a better idea how long this is going to take. I still didn't know what the whole editing, editor, beta reader, publishing process was going to be like, or how long that was going to take. So I set the release date for this January, so 6 months later, and then I kind of like had a better idea how to plot out the sequels, because I can talk. Now that we step into number 2, which is timing and I guess working with other people in that regard. So I booked my editor, I think in July, and I knew that I was planning for a January release. So in case I had any other edits or any other things going on, I wanted them to get it October, November. I think November was actually like pushing it a little bit. So I really wanted October to be when the editor got it. Because again, I didn't know how long it was going to take them either. At the time during the summer, I had 25 people volunteer to beta read. The majority of which were like coworkers who, some were just interested in what I was doing, others kind of read books, others were kind of like, okay, sure, I'll send it to you, you let me know. But only 7 of that group actually finished and got back to me with some feedback. So they're kind of my initial core that I'm going to start with the sequel. They did help me. Like I said, the developmental part was pretty solid, but they did help me point out parts where I didn't have enough information or it didn't quite make sense why a character was doing something. Because I in my head, I knew why, but it wasn't conveyed on the page. So they did help me a lot with that. Not so much with like grammatical stuff, because I told them like, I just want story feedback. I just want to know like this makes sense. And initially I set up that period for June and July. So by end of July, I was supposed to get my feedback and edit through in August. I had to extend that deadline for several people. So it became the end of August, and I did some edits throughout August, but I really couldn't commit to doing full-on edits because I was still waiting on feedback, and I didn't want to go through the book over and over and over. I did start writing book 2 in July. I didn't write too much of it at all because I was still trying to map it out in my brain, and I was kind of overwhelmed with everything I just did with book 1. So it was a very slow going process, but I was at least using that time banking it toward the sequel. I set for my editor to get the book mid-October, and initially when I reserved that time with her, she told me it would take about 2 to 3 weeks. Sweet. I'll get it back beginning of November. I think it was like a week into November she got it back to me. But I had to wait for that because I got my editor or my beta feedback throughout August, edited through that. So that was September. And I had actually ordered my first proof copy from KDP August-ish. So I had something else for me to read and edit. This was where my time could have been used better because I did what we're going to call a draft 4. I think draft 4 was post beta reader. And that's the one that I got a proof copy. So then I had to read through it and edit it myself with my thoughts and whatnot. So draft 5 is what I sent to the editor in October, but I had already finished doing all that in like September, or at least I think I could have finished it, but I remember putting it off because I was like, well, she can't get it until October 19th anyway, so I'll do something else. And then I think it was maybe the first 2 weeks of October that I edited all of that to send to her because I wanted to send her the best that I could so I could kind of gauge where I was at as well. And then she got her edits back to me, like I said, first week of November. I was doing NaNoWriMo, and I did that for 2 more weeks to like the week before Thanksgiving, and then my brain pooped out on writing new stuff. So I was like, okay, let me go through my editor stuff finally. That brings us to ordering the proofs for draft 2. No, not draft 2, draft 6 proof copies. But the reason I wanted to do that was because I added maps and I wanted to make sure they printed out well, but also I needed to order a new copy from KDP, and I had decided that I was going to print through Barnes & Nobles as well, so I had to order proofs through them. The biggest issue with having ordered those proofs, especially now that it's the holiday season and shipping is kind of unreliable, is the proof copies from KDP come super quick. Maybe not that quick, but like within a week I usually get my proof copy. But Barnes & Nobles took a little longer initially, and I'd actually ordered a proof of the paperback, which is this one that I showed you guys, because there's no watermark and it's beautiful. But I ordered this and the hardcover version the end of November. And I still don't have an estimate on when that's coming. So I won't be able to do any hardcover pre-orders because I don't know what the situation is. In terms of working with other people and setting dates, like initially I thought, oh man, 6 months is way too long. I'm done. I could be done like in 2 months. And yeah, so having to wait for beta feedback, having to wait for the editor, which is, I scheduled it later, so that was me. Having to wait for proof copies if you do that, or having to get things like approved is so much time that could have been used. And like I said, I did at least start book 2. I'm like halfway through it now, but I did start it in all of my downtime. So I've been using it to the best of my ability, but as far as like, if this was the only thing I was doing, I could have had it done at least a couple months earlier. But right now, because the shipping is taking so long and I haven't even got that hardcover proof, I just found out, well, not just, but within all this research, we're going to kind of jump into topic 3, which is printing times or printing setbacks. You cannot order author copies through KDP until it's published. So I did decide to do a personal pre-order thing so I can order copies, sign them, and send them to certain people who order the pre-order. So I set up the pre-order through my Ko-fi page. I didn't really expect anything. I had a couple family members, and then I had some not so close friends, and then I had some other random people, not like totally random, like I know where they got the information, but I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to actually order. I think I need a dozen right now, which isn't that much, but it's gonna take a minute because shipping. So I can't order the copies from Amazon until it's published. So unless I publish it early, I can't order those until January 11th. Barnes & Noble's, you can order copies since they don't have that watermark as soon as your files are up and ready. But because of shipping times and printing times, it's kind of like, when are they gonna get here? Keeping that in mind, if you do want to do like I did the pre-order campaign, but I just want to send them as soon as I can. I don't necessarily want to wait, until the 11th to order them and then get them and then ship them. Like, I want people to have the book now. That's on me. That's kind of my own timing where I'm like, oh, I didn't plan this part out well. That's just something, if you did want to do that, like, you can't use KDP for your early copies unless you have the watermark. So maybe Ingram Spark, I have not looked into them because I'm not going to pay to set up a book if I have edits in different versions to put up. Thank God, because I have so many. Even yesterday. So this is going to fall under, I guess, the editing part. This past weekend, I read through my whole book again with fresh eyes because it's been at least a month. I noted 210 things that possibly could have been edited. Let me explain that. So of those 210, maybe 10 to 12 were actual like typos, hyphenated words that weren't hyphenated, missing commas, missing periods, capitalization inconsistency. Those were things I would expect an editor or proofreader to catch, whereas the other like 200 were me kind of looking at it with an editor's eye and seeing like, oh, I used back twice in this sentence, or that door is shimmering pink, but it's made of wood. That's not how that works. So little inconsistencies, somebody's age was written wrong, overuse of people being blonde. It just like, as I was reading it as an editor, I was just like, why is everybody blonde? So like, that was my own personal choice to change those little details. And it was all minor stuff. All of the major parts of the story stayed the same, but they were just minor things that probably nobody else would really notice. But reading through them, I noted them. And because I did that, I had to upload I was going to have to because I proofread it anyway, but I uploaded all of my draft 7 final edits last night. I did it through Barnes & Noble's first because I wanted it to get reviewed and I wanted to order copies like right away, but the review process takes a little bit. So I uploaded it through Barnes & Noble's first, and then I uploaded the paperback to KDP. And then I went in and uploaded the ebook to KDP because the ebook was like, I had a lot more time. I didn't have to order an ebook. So I was like, I'll do that last in case like I just can't put up with formatting right now. When you upload your ebook to KDP, it actually spell checks for you. So it found 2 typos that weren't from post editor. It was my post edits because I had like added or changed 2 different sentences, and my software just didn't have spell check turned on. So I had to go through each formatted file, change those 2 typos, got the ebooks up, got the Amazon one up, and I couldn't re-upload the Barnes & Noble's one because it's currently in the review process. When it's done reviewing, I'm pretty sure I can upload the copy, but I was just like, this is the one I needed done. Why? Like, that was just a kick in the butt right there. I was like, I was just gonna order these and now I have to wait again because I'm not gonna let these 2 typos slip through. I guess the tip to take away from that is if you're doing the ebook through Amazon, upload it there. Make sure you don't have any like outstanding typos, and then upload your paperbacks. Or just have spell check. That works. So to quickly summarize all of that, because I think I did a lot of ramblings, we might have sort of lost direction, and the big thing is figuring out your writing times. Sometimes pushing yourself is better. Yes, I probably could have finished the book in a shorter time period, but at least with this debut, I had so much else to learn that it's good I did have a release day further in the future. Now, what I would do different as far as planning, scheduling, all of this time stuff is, at least this is what I'm going to try with book 2. Like I said, I'm already halfway through writing it. I want to try and at least write the rest of the first draft by the end of March. I know it's going to take me a little bit time to go through the developmental edits, and then I'll do my own round of editing since I have a much better idea of how to do that. As far as beta readers, I'm going to stick to a much smaller, more reliable pool. Like, I have a date that I would like the book to come out, and it's a very arbitrary one. That's like best case scenario. However, if I got it done super early and I was confident and it felt clean, I would like to be able to release it earlier. This waiting game is also, did I have so many things to do so I have made myself have more time, or I gave myself too much time, so now I'm trying to find more edits to do. It's taking more time. So it's hard to say how effective all this extra time was from developmental draft completion, draft 3. Did I need those 6 months, or did I need 3 months? Did I need 2 months? So that's going to be something I'm going to check out next with the next book. So I'm not going to announce the release date until done with the editor, or at least in my final proofreads. That way, like, if I want to be like, hey, it's coming out next week, y'all don't need that much advance notice. I mean, it's easier if it's coming up sooner. I feel like it's easier to remember than if it's coming out later. So, and then as far as the whole printing times and setbacks, now that I know I can order copies through Barnes & Noble's early, so maybe I'll announce pre-order a month before official release, and then I'll have my books on order so I have them. But, well, I'll figure out the math and figure out how quick shipping is going. That is still not totally in my control. I'm experimenting with going through different platforms, like I mentioned, KDP and using Barnes & Noble's. I'm also using Draft to Digital for a wider release of the ebook. Formatting the ebooks has been a nightmare because I want it to look exactly like my pages in my book, with my kind of chapter headings and the spacing. Like, that's what I want it to look like, and I know there's a way to do it. It seemed like every format that I tried to upload it in, something got wrecked. So I finally had to upload them as docs, which means I had to change all my beautiful formatting, or at least as far as my like titles and headers went, and just keep it simple, keep my spaces close together so it knew what was a new page, and something I'll have to look more into in the future. But I also wanted to put like this whole 2-page spread for the map in the ebook. It just made things really small, so I had to like reformat the map into a different way to get it up there, and it's not ideal. I haven't read too many ebooks as it is to see, like I've seen some variety, but I've not quite figured out how they've done things. So for me, I do have to research a little bit more on how to format ebooks the way I want them, and then see if it's my software or what it is. And then the other thing, as far as promoting, I've not done that great. I honestly have not. On one hand, this is my debut. It's the first in the series. I'm okay with people kind of finding out about it as time goes on, as I have like the second book done and the third book done, and etc., etc. Instead of a whole bunch of people coming for book 1 and then getting bombarded with when's book 2 coming out and getting stressed. So would love it, but also don't mind that nobody's putting pressure on me. So that's why I'm trying to do these videos in this last month up to the release. Trying to do posts more, and I should at this point have the first 4 chapters available for anybody to read. It's going to be on my website, so I'll have a link to that down below. But I'm just excited that this book is done, and it is not a baby. That is 11-point font. It's like 400 pages. I'm so excited to continue with this story, first and foremost. If you do have any other questions or comments about the process that I either touched on but didn't explain enough, it happens, or I didn't even kind of think of in this, definitely comment that below. We can start a discussion about that, or I can set up like a Q&A later. All right, guys, thanks for sticking around through this video. I hope you learned something helpful, and I hope you're looking forward to this book release as much as I am. Probably not as much because like this is my baby of the novels. Look forward to that, and I'll see you guys in the next video.